Tasya Dhimai Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu.
Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show, and on a journey to bliss here with a spiritual teacher, somebody I feel deeply connected with, Gabrielle Pietrangelo. Welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Hello.
Can you talk about the earliest time in your life when you were able to create something out of nothing? I find that creativity often lies in in very mercurial ways, and I wanted to know how resourceful you were early on, before you were well read, or creating something out of nothing.
Yeah. Well, it was wow. Let me think about that. Well, I grew up in a big family. There were 5 of us Pietrangelo kids, and I was the second oldest, so we did a lot of imagination games, and I would say I was quite the leader of those games.
That was your role, is that you were the leader?
I was the leader, yeah. I was like the eldest, but not the boss. You know, my sister was the boss, who was older than me. And I would say we just created worlds. You know, we acted out stuff. I remember putting on a play. I was the director, and I think I was starring in that play as well.
Of course you were.
Yeah. A lot of playing, I would say.
How did that lend itself to your spiritual? Did you tap into something at that point? Did you tap into your multidimensional self, either in performance or in that creative play?
Well, God, that's interesting. My spiritual self. Well, I grew up, I didn't share this with you, but my parents were in like a New Age cult when they met.
A cult?
Yeah.
A New Age cult. That is interesting.
That's what I guess that's a label. You know, it was this thing, it was a thing called the Summit Lighthouse. It was a 70s phenomenon. And
what was the vibe of that? I mean, were you privy to it, or was it that?
We left when I was 7, so I would say I grew up rather sheltered. There was no TV. We were vegetarian. I didn't have a lick of sarcasm until about 32 or something like that. It took me a while, because I think when you don't get that early cultural kind of brainwashing, like it makes it you deciphering the subtleties of sarcasm and saying meaning something different than what you say did not come natural.
Well, growing up in a Jewish household, sarcasm was everywhere. So yeah. It's just fascinating that you were not really hip to the voice inflection, but it was straight down the line.
Yeah, well, my mother's really that way. She's just very sweet and kind of like if you say something, she'll be like, "Really?" You know, like no way to decipher. So thank God she's all right. She made it through. But I would say that I just had a natural love of the spiritual world. I mean, my parents were really spiritually minded, I guess.
How would that bear out, though? I mean, you obviously were looking up to them.
I was like your dad and your mom. They're the archetypes. They're perfect until a certain point, right?
But it wasn't dogmatic. It was more of a spiritual. They were more spiritualists.
I would say they were searching for truth. They're truth seekers, right?
Amen. Yeah,
so I would say that was prioritized in my family, and I would say that I grew up with like a really open heart to, I could see that other people had their own reality going on. I remember as a youngster, like the first time I realized I was driving in a car and I was like, everyone going by has their own little universe. Like everyone's having this experience just like me. And I know that sounds silly, but like it was a really young awakening. And I remember feeling, they call it bodhicitta in Mahayana Buddhism, but it's that innate sense of like when you feel the goodness for others and you recognize the value of other people's lives. I think I was tapping into that as a youngster, and that brought me to theater and music for sure. Yeah. You
opened with a mantra, and I was reading part of the Guru Gita before I came in here, and he was talking about one. When you start marinating in mantras, then the heart is completely at peace. Can you talk about chanting, and not just but for other people that are searching for peace? Yeah. How you find that yogic state, and if chanting has a lot to do with settling your heart.
Yeah. Man, that's a great question. Well, I think George Harrison, he was the one who got into mantra from the Beatles. But one time he took a trip, and I think he chanted Hare Krishna like on a, 12-hour trip, and just chanted Hare Krishna the entire time. And he got so high, and that's when he discovered the Hare Krishnas and brought, he had that hit record of the Hare Krishnas. And I've
interviewed cats that played in those bands. Yeah, George was he was the longest tenured member of the Beatles with that spiritualism. But he found his bliss that way.
Yeah, through mantra. So I found mantra through yoga, and I was a musician, so people were like, could you do a kirtan? Or, I was requested to do it. And so I came to it kind of like, okay, I'll check this out and try it out. And what I found is it was so similar to what I was already into, because I've always been into the human voice and drawing together groups of people singing in harmony. I've done a lot of like harmony choral groups, and also just bringing in the audience into singing, which is so healing, and we don't do it enough in our culture. So it was a really good fit for that. Like, I love to be the facilitator of voices coming together. And I would say in my own spiritual practice, I work more with actually yoga and meditation, but mantra is so calming, and I've used it many times when, especially in times when you can't quite settle, or especially when your nervous system's like something you're dealing with, some kind of, just by having the vibrations toning, and then the powers of the different mantras. And even if you don't know any mantras, you could just hum, you can just vocalize. It's a very soothing tool. I mean, the first person that sang to us was our mother. Like in the belly, right? We could feel the vibrations of the world in almost like a mantra like way, instead of, because it was filtered by our mommy's body. So like there's already that sound thing going on,
Do you remember the first time that you had that you found peace with mantras? I mean, did you have a McCartney moment?
Well, I realized the powers of mantra when I got deep into like Chaparral Kirtan Band, was recording.
Bradford Trojan tuning in.
Is he tuning in?
He will be.
Okay.
Yeah, he'll see.
I love that man.
Yeah, great cat.
He's my Kirtan buddy.
So it happened with the band, though. It happened with the in the conversation of
recording the music and really getting into it and writing for it. Especially when I wrote a white Tara mantra, like that one in particular. But just the connection and camaraderie that I felt when we were all recording, and at that time it was Haji Banjobi, Casey Ackerley, Matt Moon, Bradford, and
Haji still will never. It's so hard to track him down, man, for an interview.
Okay.
He's a great banjo player with that. He plays that bow on it. It's great.
He's a good
he's badass,
improviser for sure.
So how is that different than just in isolation or in sedentary yoga practice mantra with the band? How did it change?
Well, what I mean by the power mantra is like we would play a kirtan, or we'd be at the recording studio channeling, the most love we possibly could. And I would just feel like someone literally gave me like some acid or some ecstasy or something, and I'd be like, oh shit. And I remember I had to like leave the recording studio because, oops, I just cussed. Is that
That's fine.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I'm like,
it was that hot. You were that high.
Yeah. I had to leave the recording studio, like go stand with my bare feet in the dirt and like just feel the moon and, just get grounded, because I was like losing my mind, because there's just all this love. I felt like my heart, you get this feeling of like, and I know that happens with music in general, when you feel the spirit, right? But kirtan, I think, is just because the aim is to connect with the divine, kind of accents that. But
can you, is there a song that you could sing for the audience? They're clamoring for you to perform. Would you like to say? I mean, a song about, it doesn't have to be off the new album, but it can be, just show them what you're about.
Okay, shoot. All right. Well, we're talking all this mantra, so it makes me feel like I should do something from that.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be my preference, but this is your interview, so I want you to, whatever you feel you want to channel, you go ahead.
Yeah. Wow. Can we pause or something, or
no? It's full.
Well, because what's in my heart right now is I'm releasing this record, and
then roll.
Yeah. So
just introduce it.
All right. Very good. Let's see. What am I going to play? This is a song that was written late summer, right here in Tucson, Arizona, when I got back from a nature healing trip up in Taos, New Mexico. It's called Listen to the River. It was kind of written at the tail end of these 7 songs that I'm releasing on the winter solstice that were part of a really intense and beautiful, deep healing journey through layers of things I didn't even know that I needed to deal with. So this one was kind of like the sweet, the final song that was kind of like letting go, right? Still working on letting go. Sometimes things manifest in songs before in reality.
Absolutely.
Silence is a killer in my heart. Can't find the words to say. Maybe it starts with I'm sorry. Maybe it ends with goodbye. Maybe it's time that I told you that I never let you go. Never let it go. Never let it go. I listen to the river when she's dry. Late summer whispers in the trees, singing a song of I'm sorry, telling the tale of goodbye, giving me strength to uncover the truth that I can finally let you go. Finally let it go. Finally let it go.
You have one more for us?
One more?
Yeah, people.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. What do I feel like playing?
Burn.
Burn, baby, burn.
Yeah.
Okay, here comes one. I hear my dog. She's like rattling around eating dog food. Daisy, do you hear that?
Smelling me, man.
Okay, is that all right?
Yeah, it's
All right.
fine.
Okay, I love that girl, but she makes a lot of noise around
It's
here.
all right. Yeah.
It's a quiet life I live with a little dog rattle here and there.
No, you're good.
Okay. All right. So this one was this was the 5th song written, and it was on my last night in this beautiful canyon, Gallinas Canyon, in southern New Mexico. Driving back down from Taos, I was camping, and it was like this kind of bittersweet feeling because I was ready to come home, but it was like my last night before I actually got back, and this song's the title track of the album, on my way back home. Let's see if I can remember it. I did just spend a ton of energy recording it. It's so pretty. Let's see. Dry riverbed crickets sing. I'm on my way back home again. I'm on my way back home. Trees never look stronger than when I can feel their roots reaching. When I can feel their roots dig down deep.
Yep.
Morning light through the cottonwood trees. Life brought me to my knees. Life brought me to my knees again. Birds sing at the break of day. Say, sweetheart, you'll find your way. You'll find a way to carry on. I'm coming home, changed like the night turns itself again to day and sunlight. I've been digging deep. I've been hearing the words that the mountains and the rivers speak. Do 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 Dry river where crickets sing. On my way back home again. On my way back home.
How do you deal with getting the songs to take on a life of their own? I mean, because people, a lot of cats, younger cats, they create a lot of albums, but then the albums sit on the shelf because there's no touring circuit. I mean, there's not, in some ways that's a reflection of how music has changed, the significance of music in our society. But I mean, like songs like this, to me, lend themselves levels of, the song can take on a life of its own. So how do you get the song to breathe as opposed to just letting it sit on the shelf? I know you got a couple of gigs coming up, but how do you get those things road tested?
Well, yeah, that's a good point. I am so fresh in this creative zone. Like, I literally just wrote these songs like this summer. I recorded them this fall. I'm releasing it physically in Tucson at Hotel Congress on December 21st. And then I'll release it online in the new year. And basically, I don't have a plan of if I'm going to tour or what, but I'm going to send it out to all my friends in the music industry. But that song in particular, like, is so catchy. I hope to get it used for something. It has like that little line. Do 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 do. I hope I can get everyone singing that with me at Hotel Congress.
You got a call and response going on.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say, but I mean, do you need to get stuff out of your system? I mean, most cats that I talk to, as the real authentic cats, and from our era, and obviously from earlier generations, they have to, if their soul will die if they don't perform live.
Right.
Like to get it. Do you have that need, or is it more about, in your ways, I don't know what the right word is.
Just for the
well, for the sake of, I mean, like you're saying, I hope. I mean, some people would just say, well, I'm just going to go out and play on the corner for a bagel and a beer,
Oh, no,
like,
I don't have that.
But I mean,
don't have that.
Yeah.
I didn't, when I was younger, I tried it a little bit, but, that's a good question. And what I would say, I'm in this really interesting process right now, right? Because I started as a solo person when I was young. I released a solo album in 1999, 20 years ago.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
What's the name of the album? Is it online?
It's called
for people?
Wake from the Stream. I will give you a copy when you read it.
Oh, I've seen that on Amazon. I see. I'm on Amazon now, so I was hip to that. I saw that last night. It's like $36. That's an expensive CD.
Is it? Well, I'll give you one for free. Because I still have a couple boxes of that one.
So that was 99.
That was 1999. And then so here's the funny thing about spirituality, okay? Because I got really deep into a practice with a teacher for 12 years. And it sort of, I think this is a common tale. Your spirituality, I mean, it has immense value, but it can also become something that makes you less inclined to get involved in the world. And I would say that happened to me in my 30s.
Let me ask you though, did you turn inward because it wasn't because you had to block out any other kind of potential form of enlightenment as opposed to what you were reading and what you were studying?
I think it was more
Was it
like
exclusivity or no? Is that
no? I think it was more like that element of like, you know, the spiritual world is the real world and this physical world is just an illusion. And so, you know, and also I think I'm a sensitive soul, and I might have gotten chewed up and spit out if I had stayed on the track that I was on at the time, because I've always been a little bit gullible, and I would say not apt to be competitive or have some of the hard, you know, you have to have a little bit of a, you know, protective element.
It's a tough business. No, it is. Yeah, you have to have a tough skin. There's no doubt.
And I didn't. So
right.
I basically retreated into my music in a more intellectual way by studying music, by studying harmony, and then I got crazy into like world folk music. And the thing I never let go of is this element of music drawing people together, and so that led me very much to ensemble work. And I did a choir out of college for years that led to a 3-part trio that was the most that I had re-engaged in the world as a songwriter, Silver Thread Trio. And we had a fun run and got to sing backup for a lot of cool cats, to use your word.
Oh, well, that's the name of my first book. The cat.
Cats.
But did you go out as a solo group, or did you only back up people?
Oh, we did our own thing. We were a
so
trio.
What was that? What was the most gratifying? Can you talk about a stage experience like where you left your physical body because of the high of the music?
Man. Yeah, I'll tell you about one. But I want to tell you about that, but I also want to just grab the thread that I was trying to make, which is I'm in like a full circle 20 years later, coming back.
It is 20 years.
That part of me that's willing to be vulnerable as a solo artist and just like
good for you.
You know, connect with an audience as a solo artist. So, but then that brings me to that cool story of like the high where you just like are like, what? Oh my God. So this was All Souls Procession 2010. So 9 years
for the worldwide audience, you explain what that is, because that's local.
Yeah,
it's kind of local
right,
to Tucson.
Right. Okay. So we're a border town here in good old Tucson, Arizona. We're like pretty much 40 minutes from Mexico, and we've got like a really cultural artist underground that started kind of in homage to Dia de los Muertos and the All Souls event in Mexico, where you honor your ancestors and you have parties in the graveyards, and it's a time to honor your ancestors and connect to the spirit world that way. An artist named Susan, I can't remember her last name, but anyway, this underground artist woman here, his father passed, and she wanted to honor him, so she sort of spearheaded the artists coming together to do this parade, and it's become this, I think we're one of the biggest ones in the United States, like 100,000 or more people come, and everyone has altars and dresses their face as skeletons, and so much creativity. And
it's the fusing of the spiritual and the material world, I think, at that point.
Oh, it's really trippy. I did the parade this year, man, and it's very trance-like. If you open to it, it's like you can feel all so many people die all the time. That's one thing. We don't know how many people are coming in and coming out. We're not like in that zone unless you're a nurse or something, or you're in that field.
Sure.
I mean, it's just nonstop. There's people dying, there's people being born. But something about this time of year, the fall, spiritually is the closer time to the spirit world, because the night is growing, so the veil is more thin or whatever. And I feel that. And you can feel it in Tucson. And growing up in Tucson, it becomes part of your... Like, you can just, I don't know. I grew up here, and it's
part of my constitution, too. I think you articulated. I wasn't exactly able to put my finger on it.
Yeah.
But you went out of body at that All Souls.
Well, no, I was it. So my band at the time, Silver Thread Trio, we
got to get them back together.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
There's some backstory there that might get in the way, but it was a fun.
Anyway, you were cooking out there.
We were cooking out there. We were singing at the finale. We were on this mega, where you can hear it, square mile.
Sure.
Our harmonies, and then at the after show at the Rialto with Calexico. So this is the moment, okay?
Yeah, those cats, man, they're big time now.
Yeah, and that time Joey was in town more, and I can't remember why this was all happening, but it was it was like a big event, and I can't. He just had an amazing group set up. Like that was Calexico. John was playing drums, but then there was like Sergio and just like an extensive, huge band, right? So Silver Thread Trio got dressed as the Boswell sisters, who are this amazing. I mean, the main sister who was in the wheelchair, who wrote for the Boswell sisters, man, dude, that
Badass.
was so rad. And their harmonies were incredible. And they had this song called Shout Sister Shout that I feel like it was Kid Squid from KXCI suggested that we do that song. And so I arranged it. I arranged the harmonies, and Marco Rosano arranged the band arrangement. And we did it, and let me tell you, we hit zeitgeist. It was like the coolest moment. I really it was like, you know, when you feel like you just gotten everyone's psyche's like in the right same place. It's what everyone was feeling or wanted to experience or something. So we're like, if you want yourself free, lift your mind and sing with me. Da 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 da. Shout, sister, shout. You know, like we're right at the end, and in this 3-part harmony, the band's playing, and then the last note, and then like you should have heard it. It was like, you know, and like you feel this wave of energy come over you, and we were all just like, oh my God. So that was probably the coolest moment, because it was the All Souls spirit, you know. It was like that spirit of Tucson, and then to have it all channeled in that moment and then coming at us after we'd given, it was just like, woo, it was rad.
Did you feel that the business was trying to mold you into a certain type of artist, and that's why you wanted to go in a more individual? I mean, yeah, right.
Okay, so here's the thing about youth that I know now that I'm old. I'm not old, but I'm 43.
You're wise.
There's like this feeling in youth like you're gonna sell out or something if you.
That's a very good point. Yeah,
if you do the work it takes to, you know, open those doors and become mainstream in any way, right? Which the whole idea is reach people. So, you know, and I definitely had that. It was a little bit of an ego thing, I don't, you know, it was partly I was sensitive, but
it's a purity thing to the purity kind of thing going on.
Purity thing going on. But now I realize there's you know, as an adult, it's like, well, what is your intention? And then you got to follow through, and you're going to have to do some shit you don't want to do, you know? So,
what was that stuff that you, I mean, I'm just talking to people that want to be a rogue journalist or be a rogue independent artist. What were things, what is the insecure path as an artist, you know, for you? And what are the things that the business wanted to manipulate about your essence?
Well, I don't know if I ever went far enough into it to really have my soul robbed, but I remember I was at this fair in LA when I had my first CD. I did a little tour and I was selling it, and there was this real slimy LA guy. That's how I perceived him.
By the way, there are some classic people in LA, but there's plenty of scumbags too. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. That's anywhere though.
Yeah, I just remember
LA guy, slimy.
It was a slimy LA guy, and he came up and he's like, "We're doing this music video, and you're really pretty, and we really want you to be in this video." And I just remember my time in LA. That was kind of the turning point. Was just and he was so shocked because he was willing to hire me right then or something and pay me $800.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just so slimy.
The way you react to that, you're so funny. So I just remember as a youngster.
No, it was more than just a solicitation. I mean, he actually had an offer for you.
He had an offer, and it was one of those moments where you're like, of course you would do that, right? Because then you get exposure. You're on someone's music video, and I had lots of different things like that happen, and I just found myself kind of pulling back into my spiritual life, and I never stopped songwriting, but I stopped performing as a solo artist, and I never again felt comfortable unless I had other people on stage with me.
I did.
Yeah.
Wow.
So and
that happened. That happened instantaneously. It wasn't like you were like, oh, you know, it was right away. You went right back in.
Yeah, I mean, the only exception to that is every Thanksgiving, my aunt is like, you got to perform at Thanksgiving for the family, you know? Well, and so I'll pull out my instrument and I'll sing them songs all by myself, and it's I love thing I do for them. But as far as I never do solo, I haven't done solo work since like 2001 or something. So this is a really big movement in my psyche to just be like, I think that when you said what did you say about insecure? What was that?
The insecure path is the secure path. That's the Joseph Campbell line that I know.
Yeah, the insecure path. So for me, my biggest growth edge, my outside of my comfort zone, is to present as a solo artist. And that doesn't mean I won't have a bass player on stage or a few guests or something, but just these songs are all written from the heart. And for me, music is like part of my healing process, and it's part of my expression of understanding what it is to be, a human. I don't write stories. I've never been the type of songwriter. I did actually in Silver Thread Trio do a few story type songs, but in general, they're very autobiographical of my inner life, and so they're not like easy to just separate from, So,
what about the chord changes? Do you have any? Do you have somebody that you work with? I mean, Garcia and Hunter. We just lost Robert Hunter, a great songwriter for the Grateful Dead, but like a lot of times he would write songs with chord changes, and he'd bring them to Jerry. Jerry did not want to hear the chord changes because they'd be in his head for months. So he would rather just have the lyrics and then make up his own chord changes.
How interesting.
So I mean that's one of the more special writing duos in folklore. But I mean, do you do it? How do you come up with the hooks?
Yeah, so
like that vocal thing you had going on before.
So they just kind of come to me. I haven't co-written music. I do have a duo with Beth Donis that's like kind of up and coming, although she's having a baby, so everything's kind of on hold right now. But
that'll be the most burning duo. Do
you know her?
Very well. I mean, not very well. She is. You guys are both gypsies,
Yeah, that's a cool little duo. So hopefully we'll get that going. It's
great fiddle. I think she plays it like the fiddle. Like it's not a violin,
No, that thing is her heart. It's such heart.
It's burning gypsy music. That's what you played that night in the Kirtan band.
Yeah, it was super sweet. But I'm a solo songwriter. It'd be so fun though to like find someone to work with if I ever found that kind of a partnership. It's not like I wouldn't be open to that, but it's mostly been just me. Pulling melodies out of the ethers. It's like fishing, I don't feel like I own them.
You got to go fishing all the time. Sometimes, you never know what you're going to come up with. Sometimes you just come up with a little fish. Sometimes you come up with a red snapper. Sometimes you come up with a whale.
Right.
You don't know.
Yep, that's right.
One of the L's on my show is life, and that includes life means overcoming adversity. And I was hoping you could talk a little bit about, in your trajectory, a time when you were really fighting it, having to overcome adversity, how you did it, and how it made you stronger.
Well, geez, Louise, I've been alive 43 years. I've been through a few earthquakes or two.
Everybody, and diving into that pain to get over it.
Yeah, and there's so much value. You know what I do believe, even though I've been knocked down over and over, and you stand up, you dust your, clothes off, and you're like, here I go again, and then pow, Yeah, and that seems like part of the skill of life. Or you're going to shut down. You're going to shut down, and then you're going to stop living. And so far, I haven't reached that place. I don't want to. I want to keep growing. And
is there a specific thing you can point to, like a moment?
Yeah. Well, there's been a few. I mean, there's been one most recently, which birthed this whole album. I went through a really confusing relationship with someone who unfortunately I didn't realize had a kind of a pattern of doing the same kind of really hardcore trip on each of his partners. And
he's a narcissist.
Okay, we talked about this before. I believe so. I'm not a psychiatrist, but it was like there was a piece of glass between us, and he was looking at it and could only see his delusions of like that I was trying to get him or something, and it was absolutely terrifying, and probably the most psychologically difficult experience I've ever been through. I've been through some really difficult, like, where you're just like, oh, your heart's just broken.
Sure. Why is that? Just for the person out there who might be, chances are dealing with something similar. Can you articulate why it's more mentally challenging than to get through something like this than normal, as opposed to a heart space kind of thing?
Yeah. Well, I think because in my naive state, before I'd ever come across that kind of a full blown kind of personality, I just assumed if you love and you're honest and you're talking, like that the person will try to meet you, or I'd never experienced that kind of, I hate to say this, but like lack of a soul. I hate to say that.
You run into slimy people.
Yeah.
You knew enough you had that, but
Yeah.
this was more duplicitous kind of stuff, soulless stuff.
Yeah, just real dark stuff that I'd never come across. And I do believe, I mean, it's been a really painful experience because it's changed my worldview. Because I was very much lucky that I'd mostly just dealt with, people that were straightforward with me, and maybe we broke each other's hearts, but there was a feeling of like when you see them, 5 years later, you're like, you're cool. I'm proud I was with you.
I get it.
That kind of feeling. Yeah, so there's some kind of a deception that happens in I would guess the closest thing I could relate it to, which happened to my parents, was being in a cult and then realizing all your genuine, sincere effort and giving to that teacher or whatever, that tradition, and then you find that teacher was actually all along just it was just a fake world, and it wasn't
just a snake oil salesman is what, right?
Yeah, well, there's nowhere where seats can take
well,
hold, it's all
right.
built on these kind of like falsities, and you have to. It's shocking, and it takes a while to grapple with it because you want to believe that the person you thought they were was like your teacher was real, but then you have to so you go through this psychological, I would say, negotiation with yourself, and it's very, very confusing. And I definitely have had the help of a good therapist, and definitely have had the help of all my spiritual practices up to now, that I had a lot of tools to draw on to get through something like that, and also have definitely drawn on my original kind of intent of this lifetime, which was like being willing to be vulnerable and express through as a solo singer or musician. So it's kind of rebirthed myself, sort of.
Right, it's rebirth and regeneration. Do you? Yeah. I mean, there even Ram Dass, people that were at the April experiment at Boston University, would consider him, when he was Richard Alpert, to be somewhat of a snake oil salesman, and he obviously turned the corner. And became very. So do you believe? I don't. Redemption's the wrong word, but I mean the idea of somebody cultivating their true nature and moving away from their habitual nature. Do you believe in that? In the sense of like somebody...
Can someone get well? Or
can somebody turn the corner from being a jive person to being a beautiful person?
I do believe so. I still do. And I think that it starts with just really letting in the pain of whatever caused that person to treat others that way. Like, I think that until a person can face that, then I don't think it's probably possible,
And it's not your job to tell that person or to deal with that person. That person has to come to it on their own. If they don't, then they pay for it in a different lifetime.
Right. Well, that's the idea of karma, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It does seem like I don't have all the answers.
No,
and
actually,
I choose to believe that yes, it's possible, but I don't really.
I think it's great. I think it's invigorating, and I think it's going to be inspiring to people that see this, because everybody goes through it in one way, shape, or form.
Yes, indeed.
Would you like to play the harmonium?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
My gosh, this would be a great
Gabrielle, what an
transition.
honor. Yeah. What an honor.
Sweetie. So life goes on, and we regrow. I am feeling the beginnings of feeling my body and my health and my wholesomeness coming back to me, and it's amazing how we can go through such dark times in life, and if you do the work and you stay with it, because you were talking about that on my porch, like if you actually don't fight, don't push away the pain, but take the time. And sometimes we don't have the time, but I had the time. I had my summer retreat, and I had the time to be with it. So
just one thing I wanted to add is also just the idea that when you do something with the intention of just doing it out of love, and there's no, as it relates to music too, God will stay in the room with you. The minute you start making it into some kind of agenda or money bottom line thing, God walks out of the room. Quincy Jones told me that. Food for thought. Go on the street corner.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Let it come from my heart
Yeah,
and your heart. This is the prayer to the Guru. And so, the teacher, the inner teacher, the outer teacher, all friends, helpers. Blessings to Dr. Laud in Albuquerque, the lovely Ayurvedic teacher that I learned this particular version of the mantra.
Gabrielle, we will do it again. It was absolutely an honor to hang with you today.
Thanks, Jake. It was fun to be with you too. It was fun. You told me we'd have a good time.
You had fun?
Yeah, I did have fun.
It's the Jake Feinberg Show. See you later.